the survival of the organization is important, so we need to figure out how we can do that. So all during the summer, I was trying to figure out how to solve this situation.
How did you feel in all this?
I felt horrible. Some of the regular partners were saying, sorry, we cannot support you this year. So it was a crisis for our organization from a financial perspective. And
so what did it mean practically for you?
it meant that trainings, and we had more than 4,000 people in our program in 2020.
Big party.
Very, very big party, unexpectedly big party. We were like very happy, but also not prepared for that. But we managed to go through it.
Wait, 4 years into NGO you worked without salary?
Yes.
How did you survive from what?
I started another company, and I had also some other side jobs. I was working.
Okay.
I always do like different kind of things, and 400 ideas for those Impact Challenge projects. There were 8 selected, and we were among those 8 who got the grant as well. So that added to that, and yeah, we just were, growing very fast.
And so it continued till the end of time.
So that would be lovely.
I think if someone who listens this is in a particular area, they will definitely see an opportunity here, because there is. Welcome to Inner Power Particles. I'm Farhad, the host of the podcast. We talk with entrepreneurs and leaders about how they have solved the challenges in their life or business, and how it has transformed into new inner strength in them. And with this we want to help that you also can look at your life or business situations and see how you can solve the challenges in them, and through that transform them also into new inner strengths, inner power particles in you. Enjoy the show. Hi Anna.
Hi.
And thanks for coming. I want to start with what do you do today? What's your work?
I am in 2 NGOs, non-profit organizations, both connected to technical education. One, which I've been working on for many years already, is Riga Tech Girls. And Riga Tech Girls it's an NGO, but it's also a community. So at Riga Tech Girls, we use technology to empower people, and specifically we focus more on women and girls, because there are less women in technology than men, and girls are less inclined to study or take on STEM subjects and technology than boys, and we want to have more women and more girls in this field. But not just that, we have also, with Riga Tech Girls, we have digital skills programs for anyone, for many different professions and for people in general. So also working on inclusive education, not just positively discriminating, that is for women and girls, but also inclusive for anyone to feel good and learn things. Recently, I've co-founded and started a new NGO, and the product of this NGO is StartSchool. StartSchool's aim is to support development of future tech leaders. So this is a different goal, a little bit different goal, and definitely the program more in-depth, more heavy than what we've had with Riga Tech Girls programs. So it's a 12-month full-time program, and here we are currently looking for people who are ready to undertake this challenge and become future tech leaders, tech co-founders of startups, and CTOs of tech companies, or technical leaders also in other companies, because as we know, technology is part of every business right now.
Do I read correctly that this tech school, StartSchool, is for technical leaders?
We will be developing technical leaders. So those who apply, they don't need to be with a technical background.
Yeah.
They just need to be motivated to become CTOs, technical co-founders in time. Because we must be careful in not perceiving that you can become a CTO in 1 year.
Yeah.
So you can learn understanding and basics, and then you have the potential to become CTO. And these are the people that we're going to support.
Being a CTO is like stool with three legs. One leg is the technical know-how, then the technical architecture overview, and then the leadership skills. What is your focus more on, or all three of them?
So we have two parts in StartSchool program. One part is a technical program that is full stack developer program, so understanding the technical side from all perspectives.
Yeah.
And we have a business and business development, startup development, and leadership included in that part. That will be the second part. How to build your own product, start your own company, build your team, attract funding.
So it's more like initial biz dev side.
Yes.
Okay. We will get to this also, but I got curious about the Riga Tech Girls part. You mentioned girls and then you said women. Who are the audience with whom you work?
The name of the organization might be a little misleading because it's called Riga Tech Girls, but we mostly work with women, grown-up women. Before that, they can do anything. They could be coming from any field. The goal of joining most of our programs is if they want to develop their technical skills and if they want to transfer their career
into a developer,
into developer,
tester, project manager,
tester, IT project manager, UX designer, data analyst. So everything that is possible in the tech world.
Yeah.
We talk about all of these opportunities, and we have different training programs, or we also connect with partners who have different training programs to support the women going through these trainings and then changing their careers.
So if someone is listening and thinking, could it be me? What are the prerequisites? How do I know could it be me or could it not be me?
If you want to change your career, if you want to upskill or reskill, our professional training programs will be for you. If you don't know what you want to do in tech, then we have a program called Discover Tech, or Iepazīsti tehnoloģijas in Latvian, where you can learn on what different types of professions exist in technology and what you could become. So that is our biggest program. Every year we have a couple of thousand people go through this program, and I call it the Ground Zero program. That if you don't know yet what you want to do, you have to go through this program and understand. And then when you know that, okay, I think I might be good as a UX designer, or I think I want to become a front-end developer, or I think I want to become a data analyst, then you already pick a professional training program that is specifically for that profession.
Okay. People who work in tech are a bit privileged financially compared to average in the country. So if someone would be considering transitioning, that might be also for the financial reasons.
Yes.
What if there's the situation that currently all the income goes away as costs of living, and I don't have any money to spare for buying your program services? Or let's put it straight, what's your financial model? How do you operate? Do I need to pay? If I need to pay, how much do I need to pay?
So far, most of Riga Tech Girls programs are free.
Free? Okay.
Yes. That has been our mission and my personal belief that education should be available for free for people to develop their skills. In recent years, the situation has changed a little bit and it has become a bit harder to attract funding so that we can provide everything that we want to provide for free. So this year we actually had the first time that we have the mentorship program with quite symbolic payment from the participants. When I say quite symbolic, it's 33 euros per month, which is not very high.
Symbolic.
It is quite symbolic. It definitely doesn't cover, not even close to, a significant part of the costs.
Imagine.
But it is something. And when we're looking in the future, we are looking into how we can change our business model so that we can be more sustainable as an organization, because last year was quite critical, I think, for many NGOs, including us, with the recession and some other aspects. So in future, I cannot guarantee that everything that we provide will be free, but the Ground Zero program, Discover Tech program, we have decided is going to be free always. And the others, we probably will have free content, and then if that is engaging and interesting enough, then we will have some also paid content.
From the people who are joining the program, There might be some who rather should not do it because they do it only for financial reasons, and then later the heart is not in it. But from the people who don't join the program, some would benefit from doing it, but something is holding them back. Either belief that I can do it, or I don't know, there's work, and then there are kids, and then there's just no time. What's your message to this group of people?
Of course, there is work and there is kids and there's no time is a very tough situation to solve. What I can say is that changing your career and transferring and learning new skills is something that definitely needs a support network. So we see a lot of women who actually are not developing their skills or not upskilling, and therefore sometimes also losing their competitiveness in the job market because they don't have the support system around them that they can learn and develop themselves. And in nowadays world, it's very important to learn new things and to develop yourself. And digital skills is just one part of that, but also quite critical part of that. I would say that it's very important to look around and ask for help, and also organize this support system. It's I cannot stress it enough. It's very, very important.
What is this support system?
It can be your husband or partner who can take care of the kids in the evening while you're studying, who can cook dinner or put them to bed. It could be your parents, it could be your aunts, it could be your friends. But for the woman, it needs the courage to ask for this help. And this is something that is very often missing in our society, that we expect the women to take care of all of the things, and family and kids and dinners and house cleaning and everything after work, so they don't have time to develop their skills. And understanding this, that I want this, I need someone to support me in this, and also negotiating this support is very critical for it to be successful. Because even if you start something but then you realize that you don't have the time for it, you don't have the energy for it because you need to do all of these other things. This is one of the biggest issues why women stay behind in the workforce, and also it is connected in some way to gender pay gap because women have all of these other responsibilities that sometimes they don't take promotions, sometimes they don't take new possibilities to travel and learn, go to conferences, go to trainings, because they just have these other responsibilities. But if they can share these responsibilities with the support network that they have, then that becomes a possibility.
So if I summarize, is that there needs to be this ability to ask for support after I realize that I want this. But stepping one step back, sometimes in these situations there's a challenge with realizing that I want and can this. There's this attitude that, but what can I do? This is my life. Yes, it would be nice, but what's your message to such thinking and mindset?
We have hundreds, if not thousands, of women who have gone through our programs and who can do it, and who have learned that they can do it. And I can say that absolutely anyone can learn and change their lives. It doesn't mean that you need to, become highest level mathematician or become a doctor's degree candidate, but learning new skills is possible and available and accessible to everyone, especially so in our programs. What we try to provide is this opportunity for anyone. Okay, you need to have a computer and internet connection.
Which most people have.
Most people have. So if you have that, then you can learn. And all of these boundaries or limitations that we think about ourselves are in our head. We put them in our head. And I know it can be scary, but I think we have to look at it not as some extra, but actually that learning new skills is a must. It's a need. We need to do it. Because even if now we can survive without those new skills, in a couple of years it will become harder and harder.
Yeah. I have two comments on this. One is about the learning curve, that even if people start, sometimes the pushback from something completely new might push off. Is it so, or it's not so? Meaning that I came to the first session, or I don't know what's the first couple touch points, and then there's drop off of the engagement and people.
Yes, for sure. That is true. That is there. In our community, we try to build again a kind of support system around that.
Yeah.
Programs that we have online, we have a supportive team that is out there to help you if you are struggling with something.
Yeah.
In the professional training programs, we try to create within the groups small support systems. So you find your study buddy. Have you done this already?
Yes.
Can you, you can ask questions to this person. You can support each other. You report to each other how well you're doing, and this can help in those moments when you're trying to drop.
5 years ago, I went home from this salsa school training. I was crossing the stone bridge, and I called one friend who is long-term in dancing, and I told her that, listen, what is this thing? I thought I'm not complete dumb person, but there I felt completely dumb. My legs were like all over the place, and I feel like biggest humiliation of my life, and I feel like not going at all there anymore. And she said very nice thing. She said, it's completely normal. Next 4 times will be the same, but time number 6 already will be good. And that made me curious. Like, okay, I want to get through these next 4 times and see how it is. And it was indeed so. So there's this initial pushback just to go through it for those who might be afraid of it. And the other thing I wanted to say with this, how to gather this courage to tell to myself that I can do this, and then courage to go and ask for support. There's such a principle in life that there's a cup of suffering, and we change when it is full. So if I don't have yet courage to change my life, this means I still have room for more suffering in my life.
Very good concept. I love that.
Yeah. So maybe take a smaller cup and don't have much suffering. Interesting. So you are running this Riga Tech Girls, and then you came to making StartSchool. Why? What was your why in this?
Okay, so with supporting women and people in general in transferring their careers, what we noticed is that we have different professional training programs, and there are a lot of professional training programs also in the market. So these are programs where you study for maybe 3 months, 6 months. Often that is easy to combine with your work or studies elsewhere. So those are some sessions in the evenings, and you study some kind of a profession. But the employers, they are not ready to take you into their teams if you don't have experience. So you have some training, but you don't have experience, and they are not ready to give you any position, not even intern's position. And so there is this kind of vicious circle that you can't get experience while you're not given work, and you don't get work while you don't have experience. And there is a gap in the market that we noticed over the years, is this practical experience. It's very hard to get it. So I learned about this program that is already functioning worldwide. There are hundreds of thousands of people who have gone through these type of programs, and it's professional training that is practice-based and that makes you ready for work. And
what does it mean, practice-based?
Practice-based, it means that it's not courses, it's not lectures, it's not professors that are telling you things. It's that you're given practical projects and you actually work on them. And during working on them, you learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And after the program, you're ready to work. You can immediately go into employment, and you are a valuable employee.
So that means there are some patron companies that are assigning actual projects to the students?
No, they are study projects, they are very similar to real life projects. So they have been taken from real life situations. Yeah. So solving these projects, you learn to code, you have a portfolio, you can go to the employer afterwards, you can say, I did these projects during those, in our program, 12 months. You can see my code, how I've done it.
Okay.
Not only that, you also learn in the program how to collaborate with others, because you do the projects in teams as well. You learn to give feedback about others' code and receive feedback about your code. You learn about the agile working approach.
Okay.
You have sprints, stand-up meetings.
So basically, you
everything.
learn the mechanics and also the technical skills.
Yeah, but you learn it by doing it in that way.
Yes, but how is it better than internship? Because years back I ran a software company. Some of the best team members came initially as interns, then as juniors, then grew into seniors.
So in some way, it is kind of like an internship. The difference is that you are given projects, starting with easy ones, and then they are becoming more and more complicated. And this system has been developed over many, many years. So the people who have designed this program, they have been training developers since 1998. So they have developed this development of the projects in a way that you can learn to do it on your own, and you learn all of the necessary full stack developer skills.
And can you combine it with your day job? How much time commitment is there?
Unfortunately, no. The StartSchool program you cannot combine with a day job. It's a 12-month full-time program.
Full-time?
Yes.
What happens with the income for these people? How do they survive?
So that is a challenge. So those people who would be studying in this program, they need to survive for those 12 months somehow.
But it's full-time, like 40 hours a week?
Yes, full-time 40 hours a week.
Tough call, actually.
It is a tough call, no doubt there. But after those 12 months, you're ready to either start your own company or go work in another company. This program is also available in part-time, in general.
Yeah.
But we are providing these 100 free study spaces for which we will require the full-time commitment.
And who is the target audience for this program? So who's the ideal applicant for you?
First of all, someone who is very motivated and ready to study for 12 months full-time.
Yeah.
It's someone who can afford that. So they either need to have saved up enough money to live for a year, or they have some support system. We will be looking for people who have the ambition to become tech leaders and tech co-founders.
Do they need tech background?
No, they don't need a tech background at this point. So the tech background is what we're going to provide.
All right, understood. Okay. But I guess you have some overall impression about the age group of these people, or there's no average?
If we want to have average, then this program internationally, the technical program, is typically the average age is around 27.
Okay.
So these would be people who have studied something in, let's say, bachelor's, worked a little bit in that field, and realized that they want to change their lives. They want to solve some big problem, maybe with a startup, or so they want to change things.
So if you are a customer manager in a bank or in a insurance company, for example.
Definitely you can definitely do that.
Yeah, all right, okay. I want to switch the conversation also now more closer to talking about you. I know that you've been an entrepreneur yourself, but now you are running 2 NGOs, which is entrepreneurship without the profit and ownership component in it. I hope I didn't make some big mistake by
stating this. No, it's very true. It's exactly true.
How come? Why?
I've been asked this question before, so especially from my course mates. So I studied at Stockholm School of Economics in Riga, and I have course mates who are entrepreneurs or who are finance people, and who are like, "Why are you doing this? Another NGO?" Or like, "Are you crazy?" Well, for me, ownership and huge upside is not the most important thing in my life. So in my life, my mission and purpose and how I can make impact is more important. So I feel like I can build this social good organization and get just as much joy out of the process of building it as if it was my company. I don't need to own things to be devoted to those. That is one kind of perspective why I am doing
So it's
this.
purpose focus.
Yes, it's
Okay.
absolutely purpose focus. And I'm not saying that ownership is bad or something. Definitely not. I've loved also building my companies. But in this case, I feel like I can have more impact and I can gather more other companies, organizations, and people together if it is for social good and for non-profit. So
Yeah.
I feel like it is easier to get the community support in this way.
That sounds logical. But looking personally, between you entrepreneur and you NGO entrepreneur, what changed? Because there was some change. Because if there wouldn't be a change, then after previous company you would have started the new company, or went just to chill for years.
Mm-hmm. Before starting the first NGO, I have actually started several companies.
Yeah.
I actually founded my first company when I was 18, just 18, when I could, I started my first company.
Together with the SSC Riga studies,
Before even.
Before.
It was actually together with my father. So he's an entrepreneur, and we co-founded a company that is still operating, and now my brother owns it and he's running it. And it's like I was there just to start it, and then it was always my brother's. What I guess I realized is that owning a company does not mean that you're going to earn a lot of money.
Yeah.
Reaching good results is what is important for me. And so this ownership aspect, not that important, but getting people to come together for a purpose is what I want. So actually, after my second startup, Front, that was like one of the more known ones, where we also...
I remember it also.
So we also attracted funding from Finnish investors and local investors. What I realized that for me, this fast pace was not a problem. So growing and working a lot and all that part, I liked that. I realized that actually having the investment, that was a little bit tricky for me. It made me more stressed. So I felt very responsible because I knew that these investors are expecting fast growth and business results. And once I realized that it's hard to deliver those results that we ourselves were planning for and the investors were expecting from us, so it was very huge pressure on me.
Yeah.
After that, I actually created another company for myself, but I didn't attract funding anymore. And very consciously, I didn't want to attract any external funding because I was afraid of this pressure on myself. Even though when you legally, kind of in the agreement with the investors, you're not risking with your personal finance or anything. But I just felt that I am so responsible in front of other people for some commitments that I've made or what I have promised, and if that doesn't get delivered, I feel very guilty, and it's very hard for me.
But here a side note, remembering my own fundraising experience, I had talked with many investors, and I saw such a different and wide spectrum of mindsets of these people, that some are indeed only into money and they expect you to deliver back on it, and if you don't, of course there are no legal consequences, but psychologically there's quite a heavy pressure.
Yeah.
And on the other end of spectrum is that they hope that you will succeed, but if you don't succeed, at least we are good friends afterwards. And it's completely other type of vibe.
It is, and that second type was actually our investors. They were not pushy at all.
But it was
internal.
internal.
It was in my head.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just internally. Our investors were great investors.
Cool.
No pressure from their side.
Yeah.
It was my internal thing that I realized, because when you're building a startup, when you're starting off, you have to dream. Like you have to build this big picture, and you kind of know that only 1 in 100 succeeds and actually reaches that big picture.
Yes.
But for me, I realized that I felt like when I was presenting that big picture and going for it and attracting the funding, I really believed it. And when we failed to deliver it, it was devastating. It was very hard.
But don't you need a big vision picture for an NGO?
Yes, you do. Very fortunately, we have always over-delivered what we expect. And in an NGO, yes, you do have the big picture. Yes, you do have impact. But as I said, I feel like it's much more easy for me to gather the resources to reach that. People need to unite to have impact.
Yes.
And I feel like for me, with my set of skills or approach or leadership, I don't know what that is, it's easier to gather people and unite them for a social cause than it was for my company's cause.
So looking from the outside, I know you very little, we've had few conversations, but maybe this is the story of your life, that you went through this SSC Riga and initial entrepreneurship in order to gain practical skills and knowledge to put into the social causes afterwards.
Very possible, very possible.
Which is of course not the case for many other people, but for you it makes sense.
Yeah.
And also feels right when I converse with you every time.
It totally does for me as well.
But does it mean the journey with NGOs has been roses and rainbows?
Oh no, absolutely not. You know, life is never super easy. I don't know. Of course, it depends on your mindset and everything. But I can say that I have been super lucky in many, many ways in my life. I've always been very grateful for what I have had. But definitely life is not easy. It has not been easy, and for sure not easy also on the NGO side.
Let's look into it a bit.
Yeah, let's look into it about my experience with NGOs, and this I hear also around, that actually life in NGOs field is typically considered to be much harder than in private sector financially.
Okay.
And
harder, but you mean what, in terms of salaries or
so
or
lower
just what they
salaries,
can afford?
Lower salaries, harder to attract funding.
I'm surprised because I've heard the opposite actually.
Really?
Yeah, at least about the salaries, that salaries in NGOs can be much higher than in the private sector. But okay, then it just...
Interesting.
I've heard from different info bubble.
Yeah, that would be very interesting for me to learn in which NGO sector salaries are higher than private. But okay, in our case, if what I am working with, so I'm working with an NGO that works in tech sector.
Yeah.
And then tech sector private salary, so definitely a very big difference.
Yes.
If I compare what we have had as Riga Tech Girls development financially compared to other NGOs that I know of, we are in a much better place.
Yeah.
We've managed to attract funding, we have managed to work for many years, we have managed to grow threefold every year for 3 years in a row. So I feel like when building this, I felt like I'm building a startup. It's just like a non-profit startup.
Meaning you also provide services, right?
Yeah, we provide services, and every NGO provides services. It's just that, as you mentioned in the very beginning, the only difference is that nobody owns that and you don't get profit.
Again, I've heard different opinions, meaning that if I'm NGO, then I'm collecting charity from donors and then I'm giving out charity to someone else. This is a different mindset, but other mindset is that I'm providing services and my business model includes also maybe patrons or other types of income who are not directly benefiting from it, but indirectly they still can be benefiting from it.
And they can also benefit directly. I mean,
of course,
in our case, okay, we've had donations and charity funding.
Yes.
For example, the google.org grants, those are very much the charity case. So they give you the funding to do a specific, beneficial work. They don't expect anything in return. Mm-hmm. But we have had a lot of the partnerships that are paying for the free services that we give to the participants come from companies who are actually benefiting. So they are benefiting in a way that they then afterwards have a pool of potential employees.
Yeah.
They are building their employer brand. So with Riga Tech Girls, what I learned is that you need to provide value.
Makes sense.
You need to provide value. That's number one. And someone needs to be able to pay for that value. In our case, we want to provide value to people who are learning skills, but we want someone else to pay for that. So we provide other value to those who are paying for that, so that we can give this education for free.
But is there this lock-in somehow or no? From the students' perspective, are they
No.
required?
No, absolutely not.
There are such developer schools where you come and you also get it for free, but then you're expected to pay some percentage from your salary later.
Yes, there are these kind of business models. They're called income sharing business models.
Yeah.
Income sharing agreement is what you sign. Definitely not our approach.
Why? Why have you stood away from this?
Well, we have actually discussed this for StartSchool.
Yeah.
But currently, we are not implementing anything like that. One of the reasons, from my personal perspective, is that this means that afterwards we need to follow up with those graduates and do their part of the agreement. I wouldn't want to become a debt collector. That is not my calling in life. If what we could provide, I think I would prefer and like a model like that. If we could work with, let's say, a bank that can give them a student loan,
yeah,
that they can live on and work and learn within our program. So they have an agreement with the bank and they can repay the student loan afterwards to the bank. I would be very happy for that kind of collaboration model. And then, because that is banks, expertise. It's not my expertise to give that kind of service.
Maybe traditional bank would stand away from this, but such more innovative financial institutions could be interested in
Maybe.
this.
I know that when I was studying at SSE, I had a student loan and afterwards I repaid it.
But it's SSE.
It's SSE, yes. SSE was a very good opportunity from SSE's side that they had these student loans for all of the students, or the opportunity to take a loan. You didn't have to, but you could take it, and that definitely helped me a lot during that time, because when I was studying, even though the studies were for free, I had to live on something as well. So
completely understand. I also took a loan when I was studying. Yeah.
Yeah, so building the school, this is something that I would love to offer. So any financial institution is listening to this and would love to be partners with us in providing student loans, we would love that. We don't have such an agreement yet with anyone.
Yeah, okay. Maybe you can just make another arm, which is your own financial mini institution for this education purpose, because it actually requires only contributors of cash and then distribution of this cash and then control mechanism.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I don't have experience in that. I don't like to jump higher than my butt.
Yeah.
It's in kind of aspects that I know I don't have expertise in.
All
So
right.
I wouldn't take that on me. If we had someone in our founding partners or anyone who would be with experience in this and with the know-how, so that we can do it with high credibility and very, that it would come naturally as part of the organization, I'm super open to that.
I think if someone who listens this is in a particular area, they will definitely see an opportunity here, because there is an opportunity. I will also share with some from my network who might be relevant for this. But coming back to, we started to go into another topic actually, about the rosy/non-rosy journey of NGO founder. Can you share some experience of yours? Because you mentioned there has been some hardship for you in relation to Riga Tech Girls initially. What has it been, and what have been the implications for you?
So Riga Tech Girls is now 8 years old, and you have challenges over 8 years for sure. The most recent that I would like to kind of talk about and share is last probably a couple of years actually, that culminated last year. We can probably see that we have some kind of a recession happening in the economy. So there is, the markets have slowed down a little bit, and also in tech.
Which year are you talking about?
22, 23.
Okay.
Actually, there was a crisis during the pandemic, but during the pandemic also a lot of tech companies flourished.
Exactly. Yeah.
And including Riga Tech Girls, we actually flourished. 2020 was our growth year. 2021 was another growth year. So we started actually attracting funding and having bigger and bigger projects starting from 2018 were the first ones, then 19, and in 2020 we got huge grant, the first big grant with google.org, and we started providing these large-scale trainings, and we had more than 4,000 people in our program in 2020.
Big party.
Very, very big party, unexpectedly big party. We were like very happy, but also not prepared for that. But we managed to go through it. And that's actually the first time that we employed anyone. So I got my first salary in 2020 when we got this big project.
Wait, 4 years into NGO you worked without salary?
Yes.
How did you survive from what?
I had my other company. As I mentioned, I started another company, and I had also some other side jobs. I was working.
Okay.
I always do like different kind of things, and so freelance work on some projects and so on. So I survived from other resources.
So you are very committed to the purpose.
Yes.
4 years without salary.
Yes,
Right.
for sure. Well, Riga Tech Girls started off as a very volunteer-run, volunteer-led organization until 2017. For the first 2 years, we didn't have any budget at all. Everything was done on volunteer and in kind. So that time, I had the co-working space, the Mill, on Riga Street. And we were doing most of our events at the Mill because we had it. So we had some partners who were chipping in, providing some snacks or providing other venues, but otherwise we didn't have any funding.
Okay.
Until 2018 was the first year that we had a project where we had some funding coming in.
So back to 2020, then you got your first salary.
Yes, 2020 was the first time that I hired myself at Riga Tech Girls and started paying myself symbolic salary. From that moment onwards, it was growth. So 2020, 2021, 2022, like, as I said, threefold every year.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the first time. And what followed?
So when the pandemic hit, actually first I thought that this is it, that Riga Tech Girls will be over, because up until then we had in-person meetups, in-person workshops, and we had no experience with online anything. We organized our first Women in Tech Hackathon, which was the last in-person event for many people on 8th of March. And then, if you remember, on 20th of March, everything was closed down. I think it was 19th or 20th of March. So anyway, like a week before everything was closed down for full, how did we call that in the pandemic? Lockdown. Yes. For full lockdown, we had our last event in person. And during the first lockdown weeks, I was in huge turmoil. I was like thinking what's going to happen, both with my company, because I was running a company that also we were, it's a clothing company, so we were like, how are we going to sell things? And we had half of the sales in person and in shops, and then how we are going to continue Riga Tech Girls, because there was kind of not too much funding, or we didn't have employees, but I was working with two teammates who were kind of working on some projects, and I said, don't rely on anything, like everything is changed now. I don't know what will happen with Riga Tech Girls. And what happened was that due to previous experience in 2019, where we had one project together with a Lithuanian partner, Women Go Tech. They called us and they said, we're talking with Google about this grant, and we want to have it in both Lithuania and Latvia. Would you be our partner? And we said, sure. So we applied for this grant and we got it. and it was like much bigger than we had anything that we had before, and we had funding.
And that just came.
It just came.
I mean, this call.
Yeah, it just came. But it came because when they reached out to us a half a year before, we were super responsive. We helped them for no remuneration. So
there's backstory which explains why it came.
Yes. So this is one of my kind of approaches in life, is that I know that when I do something with people, for people, with no immediate return, it always comes back in some way.
I want to just add here that I also have experienced in life a call with an unexpected offer in a situation where otherwise I would be like completely effed. But in that case, I could not figure out why it came, because I was recommended by someone whom I even didn't know personally. He had seen me somewhere in video and thought, okay, it makes sense to connect. So also such things happen sometimes.
Exactly. Sometimes you don't know how, and this is why, I believe that it is worth doing things that you believe in, that not necessarily give you very specific financial or other benefits immediately, but it always, for me, I felt like it always comes back somehow. And so we got this grant, and this meant that we have funding to work on huge projects for almost 2 years, so 20 and 21.
Yeah.
Then just other things also started to happen. So it was the first big one, but we were also working together with Accenture Baltics to develop She Goes Tech professional training program. And just other partnerships started rolling in. We got a partnership with TET, we got a partnership with Swisscom soon after. So it was just growing. And the next year, in 2020, we got another grant, which was a separate one. So we applied for Google Impact Challenge competition. Out of 400 ideas for those Impact Challenge projects, there were 8 selected, and we were among those 8 who got the grant as well. So that added to that, and we just were, growing very fast.
And so it continued till the end of time.
So that would be lovely, but as I said, so last year was more tricky. In 2023, we felt what I think tech companies were actually feeling already in 2022. We saw that worldwide there were some layoffs. So during the pandemic, a lot of the tech companies hired more people because a lot of people started relying on tech much more.
Yeah.
And there was huge growth in the tech sector. We also got our benefit from that because the tech companies were profitable. They needed more people, but they were also willing to donate, they had profit that they could share. In 2020, things started to slow down, and tech companies started layoffs. They started receiving less profits, and in 2023, we felt that. Yeah. So by that time, our team had grown. We had about 15 people in the team.
Full-time, yeah?
Most full-time, not all full-time. So the Riga Tech Girls structure is quite complicated. We have our core team that we call core team, where we have employed people who work full-time. Then we have people who work on projects, and they have project-based remuneration, but they don't work full-time.
Okay.
And then we have volunteers who work on very light, not even part-time, a couple of hours, per week or per month. So we had grown to have about 30 people in projects, about 50 people who are working on altogether in different types of approaches, and then hundreds of volunteers as mentors and lecturers and so on. In the middle of 2023, we had applied for maybe 7 funding projects that were all either had no answer or had an answer no. And our regular partners, some of the regular partners were saying, sorry, we cannot support you this year. Our last year and our financials don't look that good. We don't have that profitability, so we cannot support you. So it was a crisis for our organization from a financial perspective. And
so what did it mean practically for you?
It meant that I was looking at my monthly expenses, and I was looking at the amount of money in the bank account, and I was realizing that, okay, we have money until the end of the year, but that's it, and we don't have any projects signed for the next year, so it is a crisis. We need to solve that somehow, and the survival of the organization is important, so we need to figure out how we can do that. So all during the summer, I was trying to figure out how to solve this situation. And in the end, we decided that what we're going to do is we're going to change the relationship with our employees from they having a full-time fixed salary to being paid by the hour, or in essence, being paid per project. So if they have a project that they're actively working on, then we have funding to pay them.
Yeah.
And they get the amount of salary that they can from that project. If there's no project, then we unfortunately cannot afford to pay them. So
which means they need to go and work elsewhere.
They either can, they can do some freelance work elsewhere, or they can change their job and they can go elsewhere.
And what happened?
So some of the teammates were okay with this arrangement.
Yeah.
And they said, fine, we can juggle this. And some were not okay with that. Many of our teammates were very understanding and supportive in a way that they said, okay, let's kind of finalize our employee agreement. And they said, okay, we are going to go to the unemployed and use the unemployment benefits. We know that the organization cannot afford to pay us, and if you need something, we will be as volunteers to support the organization. So very thankful to all of those teammates who were that altruistic, were ready to do that.
How did you feel in all this?
I felt horrible. I felt very bad. For that part of the year when I needed to figure out how to solve this, it was a huge burden. It was very hard because I knew that things will change and we will need to survive with some of the people in the team. It will be very hard for others as well, because when more than 10% of people suddenly to leave the organization, the others pick up the slack, take on these responsibilities and take on that job. And I couldn't take a vacation that summer at all. I was all the time working, trying to apply for more funding, trying to figure out how we can, put this all together. Unfortunately, it was also a time when I had difficulties in my family. One of my daughters was having health issues, and it would be normal for me to take a break, but I couldn't because the organization was in danger. And I had to figure out ways how to save it, how to not let it
and
go
how
down.
did you rely only on your own strength, or you also had a support system for you?
I would say that was one of my learnings after all of this, is that I need to rely more on other people in the team. I need to get them involved more in the issues that are troubling me and hard, and that I need to share more the responsibilities. I did feel quite alone in that in many times, even though at that time there were 4 of us in the board of Riga Tech Girls. I felt like much of the financial responsibility is on me, which has been like that also historically, and it is my responsibility to share all of these things, and I hadn't done that, so I took it all on myself.
So you're now sharing a kind of a takeaway about this story. Maybe you can expand it a bit. So now when you see in retrospect, because the situation when things are going up and then suddenly they fall down, this is more almost like a norm than exception in businesses. And then what the CEO and the top management can do in these situations for 2 goals. One goal is to save the company, the organization, but the other goal is to save the sanity and the well-being also.
Yes, for sure. What I realized maybe is part of the thing that it's an NGO that nobody owns. In this case, psychologically, somebody takes the ownership feeling anyway, and somebody doesn't. Like, When you have shares in a private company, you know that these shares belong to you, so you are an owner and you are responsible. When you are part of an NGO, you don't own anything. I also don't own anything, but internally, I feel like it is my responsibility to make the organization work. So it very much depends on kind of psychologically how you can take a feeling of ownership, and probably also, so in our case, I'm the one that has been with the organization the longest. I'm kind of the more visible person in that. And even though others are in the board, maybe they didn't feel like it's as much their responsibility as it is mine. And maybe I also didn't transfer this responsibility enough. So what I understood later, already afterwards, when it was so hard, actually, these talks with all of the employees about changing the employment rules and the structure, but not all were understanding this situation. And when they realized that, okay, they actually have to make the decision to go away and find a new job, and finding a new job maybe was not that easy. So there is anger building up. And this anger builds towards me, of course, because I am responsible.
Yes.
And I was responsible for how the organization was moving. I was responsible for attracting the funding. I was responsible for changing this structure. And this anger, of course, it comes out. And what I was feeling later and talking also with others is that maybe exit interviews should be done by someone else. So who can be kind of an mediator and not the exact person that you might be angry at, because it made it hard. These talks oftentimes were hard if the person was angry. So even though we tried to talk about in the exit interview also to talk about the things that have been good in our relationship, you know, when you break up, in essence, it is oftentimes it's hard. So that was one of the things that I thought maybe, and I know that in other organizations that also were laying off people or changing the relationship last year, it was not the CEO who was talking to the people in the exit interviews.
I would argue here. I would say that it should be the direct manager and plus the CEO sometimes. But in small organizations, it should be the CEO. It's hard, I understand. But the employees, they later anyways appreciate it. I once also experienced 10 years ago layoffs, and then a couple of years ago in one startup after party, my former employee, whom he was one of the being laid off, bumped into me, and I thought, oh, what will follow now? And he said, wow, hello, like working for you was one of the best experiences in my life. Okay, ciao, see you. So at that moment it feels not nice, but it's part of the job of a CEO to make the tough decisions and to execute the toughest decisions.
That's how I felt as well. After all of those final exit interviews, maybe a week after those, I broke down. So that's when I thought that maybe I should have involved someone else in the process as well.
Then yes, it was too much for you then.
Yeah, yeah, it was for sure too much. And you know, it is very hard seeing what you have been building crumble and go down, and letting people know that they no longer have a stable job, and especially with women who sometimes they don't have either, you know, they haven't saved up, or they don't have a partner who can support them in that. It's very hard situation, and it's very hard decision. And yeah.
But my mentor in these situations used to say to me, don't pretend and don't try to play God in other people's lives. They will survive, you cannot destroy them, life will go on.
That's very true. That's very true. But you know, in those hard moments, people also can become emotional and tell you things, and if you're angry and you say some things and those things are true, that was the hardest for me. So I got the comments that I was getting, why didn't I organize it better, or why didn't I realize sooner, or why didn't I manage things in different ways, and I felt like, I'm guilty in some way, because I could have maybe understood things earlier, managed things better, done things differently, and realizing that, I guess, was the hardest part.
I would argue this. No one, you, me, no one in the world could have done something differently. It's like we always act the best way we can. There's no way to act differently.
That's my usual approach. But when someone looks you in the eye and tells you that you should have done better, you can start having doubt about yourself. I got doubt about myself at that moment.
And where are you now? Where's the Riga Tech Girls now? So you had these dark days?
So we managed to survive. For those in the team who were resilient and stayed with us, it worked out very well, actually. We managed to get additional projects, and we're growing again. So I would say we're back on track. It was a kind of cleansing of the system in some way. The most dedicated people who were there for the mission were the ones who managed to stay with us as well. I say that currently with the smaller team, we are more efficient, we are more tight-knit, we are a better team than ever. So from that perspective, I think it was a very hard time, but it was also a good time for us to change and adapt.
Yeah.
So we learned to change and adapt to the situation, and I'm very grateful for the people who stuck around and stayed with us and are still with us, and with whom we are now growing again.
And somehow remembered the semi-saying that forest needs fire sometimes for itself to clean. But to conclude, I want to ask you, if you would look back at where you were like 9 months ago, if you would meet someone else who would be in a position where you were 9 months ago approximately, what would you tell them as words of wisdom and encouragement from today's perspective already?
Okay, I would definitely say that this will not be the end. So it's a process, and you have to make hard decisions, and you have to execute those hard decisions.
Not postpone them.
No, not postpone them.
Exactly,
At that time, so I would say I already knew that we are in a tough situation in the beginning of summer. We could have made some decisions faster. All through the summer, I was still really hoping, and I was working on having more funding to keep everyone in the team. And maybe that was the decision that I could have changed earlier. But
you were working, you were not just relying on hope.
No, of course not. Of course not. I was working like hell, But that said, so maybe making that decision faster, and of course not hoping and keeping working on solutions. But so I think in my case, I already pushed myself a bit over the limits during the summer as well, trying to keep it all together. To maybe plan this execution of the hard decisions better sooner than later, and not to push yourself over the limits. That would be my advice to myself 9 months ago.
So to believe that things will work out, to do the tough decisions, execute them, but also be sustainable towards yourself.
Yes.
There's a field, there are 1.5 or 2 more topics that I'd love to go into. I will tell them, but we won't have the time to go into them this time. One is, what were the implications for your mental, physical well-being, and second, what were the implications for your family's well-being. 2 big topics to discuss for some other time.
Yes.
But I'm very curious to explore them with you, given your experiences.
Yeah, for sure, I can share that.
All right. Thank you, Anna. It was a nice journey with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Farhad.
Thanks. Okay.